Hey, tough and the out of this world story from Street Travel. There are ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back in Street Travel. I am your host Manir.
Story 1. I'm a 29-year-old white guy. My wife is 30 and black. We have 2 kids, a 3-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. My wife got pregnant with her son early in our relationship. We had only been together for a year. We got married because she got pregnant. Fortunately for us, we are actually happy. When my son was born, I accepted him as mine. However, I couldn't help noticing how little he looked like me. He is noticeably darker than my wife. He doesn't look half white. My family and friends have asked if I'm sure he's mine. I had doubts, but I initially decided to trust my wife. I love my son regardless. When our son was 2, my wife had our daughter. I had no doubt she's mine. She looks just like me. She even has my blue eyes. I never realized how powerful it is to know a child is yours. I bonded with her easier because there wasn't the question of paternity dangling over our heads. My family bonded with her faster too. Her resemblance to me convinced me that my son is not mine. I tried to always treat them equally as I see them both as my children. But I realized I was beginning to resent my son. It felt unfair that I had to care for someone else's child. I also began to resent my wife because I felt that she had betrayed me. I finally got a paternity test in secret. I was relieved to learn that my son is in fact mine. Genetics are weird. Anyway, that was 4 months ago, and my relationship with my wife and son improved dramatically. I feel much closer to him now that I know that he's mine and my wife, and I have been so happy that we're talking about a 3rd child. I confessed to my wife I got a paternity test. She flipped out. She asked me if I ever doubted her daughter, and when I said no, she called me a racist. It's not true. I didn't prefer my daughter because she has whiter features. I just knew that she was mine. She also said that I made our son feel unloved for no reason for all those years. I said that's bull. Even when I didn't believe my son was mine, I treated him as though he were. My wife says she wants to move out and take our children after the quarantine. It's been about a week and a half, and I'm still on the sofa. I hoped she would calm down enough by now, but things haven't changed. She's just so furious with me for not trusting her, and for her in her eyes denying my son because he's dark. She barely talks to me unless it's about the kids. I don't want to lose my family. Here's where I turn to you. Is it so awful that I had doubts? I still took care of him. I don't understand why something like this is wrecking my marriage. I think she's overreacting. So am I the a-hole. Now for the top of advices before reading the update. Yes, you are the a-hole. She is absolutely not overreacting. You not only did not trust your wife, you let your ignorance get in the way of you bonding with your child. I mean, what do you think was going to happen when you had biracial children? It's not always a perfect mocha mixture for both parents. You may get that. You may get a kid who is white as a vampire or dark as Wesley Snipes. You really need to suck it up and beg for forgiveness, and then you need to fix that ignorant way of thinking that you have. Your son is going to need you. Being a black man in this world is not easy. He even says his family didn't bond with him as much as his lighter daughter. Sounds like being a racist lies in the family too. Poor kid deserves better. Seriously, 2 pale white people can have a tanner kid and no one bats an eye. A black child is darker than his parents and suddenly it's, what are genetics? No SHT, it can feel counterintuitive. But having a kid isn't like mixing 2 flavors of ice cream together and getting one that's exactly halfway between. Sometimes kids pop out looking like a great-grandparent, or with an eye or hair color that's been recessive in the parent's gene pool for a few generations. Also, 5 years old is absolutely old enough to see that daddy's keeping praise and attention onto the new baby or toddler in a way he never did for his son. The son might even be old enough to make a connection to his skin color, which could seriously screw up his self-esteem. Feeding and taking basic care of your son isn't making him feel loved and cherished. You are the a-hole, and I hope you can lose this mindset and become the father your son needs and deserves. But I swear it wasn't racist. Yes, because we all totally believe that if your wife was white and had a white son who looked nothing like you, you and your family would immediately assume she was a two-timing liar and that the child wasn't yours. We totally think you still would have done all this and not had the normal people reaction of lol, genes are funny, and paid enough attention to your kid to notice which family members he does look like. One kid is too dark, so can't be yours, and the other has blue eyes, so is. That's the evidence. I'm biracial, but usually mistaken as being full black. My white mother and I have completely different skin, eye color, and hair. But when I stand next to her, you can see I'm her daughter. It's in the shape of our eyes, our nose, our face. There's no mention of the son's cheekbones, his smile, his mannerisms, personality, or anything meaningful of why he must be someone else's. Just his skin color and the daughter's blue eyes as a contrast of a child worthy of being confident in. But yeah, totally not racist. Now for the update. After being ripped to shreds on my first post, I didn't plan to ever log into this account again. Some recent events have persuaded me to update you all on what's been going on. I'll just get right into it. My wife and I are separated currently. I moved out so that she and the kids could stay in her home. I'm staying with my parents for now. I don't get to see my kids as often as I would like to. When I have a more stable living situation, we'll have joint custody of them. It's been very hard on me and the kids. I talk to them on the phone every night, and they both keep asking when I'm coming home. It breaks my heart that I can't answer that question. My daughter is taking it the worst. I feel awful that her world has been turned upside down by her own parents. I miss my family. I miss seeing my kids every day. I miss my wife. Our relationship has been put in limbo for now. She says that she needs space to process and doesn't know if she'll be able to forgive me. I've apologized every way that I know how to at this point. I just have to give her the space that she wants and hope she calms down. It would be horrible for us to throw away what we built if separating has been this hard on the kids. Divorce is going to shatter them. She seems open to seeking couples counseling. It gives some hope we can work past this. As for, I admit I didn't want to hold myself accountable before. I couldn't see how my actions were subconsciously harmful to my son. It was never my intention to be racist, but I did treat my son differently due to his skin color when you strip it down to its roots. I realized how bad I screwed up when I felt ashamed thinking my wife was probably told her family why we separated. They used to think really highly of me. Now they all probably think I'm a racist. I have no one to blame for that but myself. With all the craziness going on in the world, I know that I need to be more aware of my actions. My kids deserve to have their family to be a safe haven from racism. It scares me thinking about the type of world I will send them out into where they could be racially profiled in most places. I can't imagine if it were my son on the news instead of one of those other poor guys. I'll never let anything get in the way of my relationship with him again. Thanks all. Story 2. I apologize for any issue with the post as I don't really use, but I couldn't think of anywhere else to ask for advice anonymously. I have 3 sons, 32, 28, and 26. All of my sons are very successful young men and are on their own. My oldest and youngest were always very outgoing and were kind of party animals in high school and college. My middle focused on his grades and future from a young age. He moved out the youngest into his own home. Anyway, my middle had a very bad ex-girlfriend. I would like to say worse because I read the rules here. Basically, they dated since 17 and she cheated on him several times. My son never left because he loved her. But eventually he realized she was a bad woman and left her. Only took 8 years. Anyway, my oldest got married at 29 and my youngest is engaged. They give my middle son a lot of crap because he is single, but I always say that his ex kind of messed his sense of love and confidence. They don't understand what he went through. My husband agrees. 6 months ago he started dating his new girl that we just met yesterday. I was happy to hear that he found someone. She is very educated and smart, according to him. They have similar personalities and interests. Considering my middle is kind of a nerd, that made me very happy to hear. Anyway, I wanted to meet her immediately. My son said that she is very shy and it takes her time. 6 months later, she told him that she is ready to meet us. So Friday afternoon, my husband decides to grill. Everyone comes over. Then my son and his new girlfriend show up. This beautiful girl walks in holding his hand, and standing behind him. He was right. She is very shy. We all introduce ourselves, and we all call her Sadie. Sadie was quiet, but she said hi to everyone. She honestly associated the most with our dog. That night my sons go out and help their dad cook. My daughter-in-law goes out with my grandbaby and soon-to-be daughter-in-law and her best friends. They go out together. I asked if Sadie would like to help me finish the sides and chop up some stuff. She says sure. I just asked how they met in typical conversations. Eventually my middle son comes in and comes up behind her and pokes her in the booty. She gives him a really look and hits him in the arm, and he grabs her and picks her up as they laugh. I say put her down, don't be so rough on her. My son just says okay, puts her down and goes back out. I said sorry, 3 boys sometimes. They're a little too rough, but he is harmless. She said I know he is. I used to wrestle with my dad and brother growing up. Too. I said your mom let her daughter wrestle her older brother and dad. She said well, I used to be a boy, so I guess it was different, and giggled. I froze. I said what? Her face went snow white and immediately tears rolled down her face. She said he didn't tell you? I went no. She said I think I should leave. I am sorry. I grabbed her and said no, stay here. I said does my son know? She said he knows. She then said, I always bring it up first day, so if there are issues we don't waste each other's time. To be honest, I am very surprised, but my son has never been so happy, so I dropped it. I honestly just couldn't believe it. I mean, you would never know. She is gorgeous. She asked if I thought of her differently. I said that you make my son happy, and as long as you treat him right I won't care. She just said thank you. I called my son today because his dad wants to get to know her more and wants to go to dinner with just them and us. He said sure. I brought up her conversation and he said he knows. He said that she is just really shy about it, doesn't talk about it at all. She just tries to run under the radar. He said that since you know we need to tell dad. But they discussed me pre-telling my husband before tomorrow evening. Any idea on how, or should I tell my son before we go that he and her are going to have to do it? Any help would be appreciated. Thank you. Now for the top of advices before reading the update. I like how the husband for hours just went shut up, we'll talk later over and over until he could buy ice cream and say his line. Roger was wearing beads all afternoon, wondering how he would turn this family dinner into a trip for ice cream. Suddenly an opportunity presents itself. Play it cool, Roger, stick to the plan. I was in a same-sex relationship from 19 to mid-20s, and I asked my mom to tell my granddad, her dad, for me. The next week he comes around for coffee and to see my parents, which wasn't super unusual, but this time my mom hounded me to come out and see him too, and made the whole family sit around a table and eat cake and drink coffee. There was this super awkward aura around us, when suddenly my granddad clears his throat and goes, you know, I never understood the big issue with kids not having a dad. My dad was in wars for most of my childhood, and I was raised by multiple women, and it turned out great. Then he just drinks his coffee while my mom stares at me, waiting for me to connect the dots. That's him telling me that he loves me the way I am. He's the best granddad. Similar story. My uncle came out as gay after 50 years. He cheated on his wife and got caught having an affair. They were getting a divorce, and we were all a bit worried to tell my grandmother because she was very set in her ways. Eventually he did, and she slapped him. I don't care if you're gay, but I didn't raise you to be a cheater, and that was that. Now for the update. Hello everybody, I would just like to first say thank you for the kind words. Everything, believe it or not, went very well. I took the advice and told my husband earlier what I had planned. I told him at noon, when we were going to pick up my son, we will call Sam and Sadie at 6. The conversation basically was fairly quick. I just told him I needed to tell him something, and he had to promise me not to be upset. He just said speak. I said Sadie is trans. He just went, okay. He said, we'll talk later. I said something about dinner, and he just said we will talk later. I told Sam and told him I have us back on the drive to Sam's place. I told my husband that Sam loves her and makes him happy. I explained it took a lot of courage from Sadie to be open with us right from the beginning. My husband just said we will talk later and said I promise I will be on my best behavior. We go pick up Sam and Sadie. It was a nice restaurant, so my husband and Sam were in polos and dress pants. Sadie and I were in dresses. They looked so cute together when I saw them. They were matching and everything. We go to dinner and my husband is acting normal, just asking questions to Sam and Sadie about intentions, how they met, etc. After dinner, I gave her a lot of credit. Sadie tried to bring it up with my husband. He just said, "Hold that thought, let's go get some ice cream." Husband is obsessed with ice cream. Will always find an excuse to get it. So we go, as he is just telling jokes to everyone in the car and acting a fool as he always does. We get there and ask what everyone wants. My husband's favorite is chocolate. Mine is cookies and cream. Sam's strawberry and Sadie's is butter pecan. I promise this matters. We get our ice cream, and after a few minutes my husband says, "It's weird how there's so many different types of ice cream. When I was a kid there were like 2 or 3. Now they have hundreds, it seems like." I was confused where my husband was going with this. He then said, "As long as the ice cream that you like tastes good to you and makes you happy, I don't mind forking out a few dollars for a smile." And then he winked at Sam and Sadie. That was it. That was the discussion. We took them home and he gave Sam and Sadie each a hug and told Sadie he hopes she can make it to more dinners on the weekends as we do them often. She said that she will. All I have to say is I held my husband's arm the whole way home. I am guilty. I did give him a big present for it. Thank you everyone for your support and kind words. It seems everything is going to be fine.